We're back again. It's turbo time. Let's do this. But I did have to stop for about a week. We did the G35's clutch and we dropped the whole transmission outside in the driveway. And it's all done. The car's driving well. I'll have a video soon and how it's driving, and we're gonna go for a little cruise. But now it's time to focus back on the Miata and get everything situated for the oil pan. Let me show you exactly what I gotta do. This is the passenger side, and Chris already has removed the caliper. He's hung it here, and now I have to do the same thing to the driver's side. And look at the simplicity in this design. I mean, you just have the coilover, upper control arm, lower control arm, inner, outer tie rod. No ABS. There's nothing, no ABS. So I'm gonna go ahead and get started. I'm gonna set up the GoPro. And guys, look what happened to my GoPro. Oh, it's got a boo-boo. This got crushed during the install of the clutch on the G35. I already have the new screen. It's right here, I have to install it. I'll probably have a video on that and how to replace the screen. So yeah, let me go ahead and start with this GoPro, put it someplace that it's not gonna get destroyed. Special shout out to Gmail user 7773. Guys, let me zoom this in. Look at this. Look how much love he sent me. Look at that. You see that? That's love. Hey, I appreciate it, buddy. All of it's gonna go to that GoPro that's broken. It's gonna go to the repair of that GoPro. That was 80 bucks. Every little penny counts, guys. Back to the footage. Let's get this thing done. So here's a little update. I have removed the power steering hoses. Everything has been disconnected. You can see some of the fluid down there. I'm pretty much ready. I'm ready to drop this thing. Let's go look underneath. Let's take a quick peek under here and let's see what we can see. I think I have everything ready to go. It's just attached. I might have to disconnect this guy right here. I don't know if you guys can see. There's a bolt right here. Might have to disconnect that off of the subframe, but I think I'm ready to go. We'll find out here once I start lowering everything down. I was wrong. It's attached to this hose. It's pretty much ready to drop down. So let's do exactly that. All right, let's look at the mess that I have created. It is out. The whole subframe is out. Look at this. Look how beautiful this is. Look at the simplicity. That's the beauty here, the simplicity of this design. You can see the upper control arm, the lower control arm, the strut. Look at the push rods for the outer tie rod, inner tie rod. I mean, it's just so simple. Subframe is so simple here. If this was something else, you would see a bunch of wires, you see a bunch of shit everywhere. And let's go underneath here. Let's see what we have. Let's see. Let's try to get this light the best we can. Everything's exposed. Everything. You can see the crank. You can see everything. The flywheel. Look at the flywheel back there. Oh, you're getting some oil in there. Hey clutch, how you doing back there? You okay? You slipping yet? Slave cylinder. Very easy. Man, these cars are so simple to work on. I love it. I love the simplicity of it. And here you can see this is the strap that I was talking about before. If you watch my video, this strap is going all the way to the top and all the way up there. It's what's supporting this engine from crashing down. And of course, I left the blocks in here just in case, you know. Look, there's barely nothing supporting this transmission and engine. It's just there. Before I installed the support bar, everything that was holding this engine and transmission up was these blocks of wood and that little piece of metal right there. If this engine decided to go left or right, or the vehicle or anything, you know, while we're under here working, scraping this RTV, it would just fall straight on our face. So it was definitely worth purchasing that support bar. And I'm gonna just try to give you guys a good view of what it looks like underneath here, because a lot of us don't get to see this too often. There's the intercooler over there. Here's all the AC lines routing towards the front. Right up there you have your alternator. Very, very simple design. I love it. I love the simplicity. But now it's time to start scraping away this old RTV and cleaning all this up so the new RTV can bond against this guy and we could turbocharge this Miata. Oh look, we could see the piston. There's the rod, there's the piston. Hello little piston. You're gonna have a hell of a time trying to hold boost, little piston. So it's time to scrape, scrape, scrape. All right, Chris is here and we're finally getting ready to put the pan on. Chris is getting ready to record for his YouTube channel. Check out Gallo 12 or 24. Definitely take a peek. He's getting more views than my videos. Guys, you gotta go subscribe in his channel. He must be doing something right. Go subscribe, go check him out. So we're under here. It's time to seal everything. I have wiped everything clean. Look how nice that looks. You could eat off of it. Should I lick it, guys? Guys, would you subscribe if I lick this? If I lick this, would you subscribe? But just like I mentioned in the other video right at the end, once we put this pan on, we have to use a certain tool to be able to see if we completely screwed ourselves. Let's find out. Here it is, guys. Here's the special tool. Now, I will have a review on this articulating scope later. Look at this. I can move it. Wow, that is awesome. I will have a review video on this later, but once we put this pan, I will show you everything inside there. I'm ready to go. You ready?
Let's go.
Let's do this, bro. Let's do this. The first thing that we're gonna have to do is install this baffle plate, and we have the gasket here for the pickup tube. I have to install this first with 2 bolts, and I have to put RTV all along here. So once we do that, then we could put the pan on and we could RTV the whole thing. Let me show you what else we have to do. We also have for the pan right here, you have this gasket here that has to be installed, and of course here's the RTV. So we're ready to go. We have all the products, we have all the parts we need. Let's get this done. Okay, I have the pan installed and it fought me a little bit. The baffle plate and the top of the holes would not line up with the pan. So it fought me for a little bit, but I finally got it and it's on there. Now we're gonna take a peek inside here and see how close did we get to the actual crank. When it rotates, it's gonna get really close to here, and hopefully we have enough clearance. Hopefully, fingers crossed, right? Look how new this is. Look, that's how new this is. It's brand new. It's brand new. Good to see you, Chris.
Subscribe to Gallo 12 or 24.
Hold on. Can we flip you? There you go.
Subscribe.
Can we look up your nose? Let's look up his nose. No, we don't want to see that. All right, so I promised you I was going to get you a better picture, and here it is. So let's try to get this the right way. Okay, so there's the pan. Could move this up and down. Here's the screen, and you guys look at the screen. I'm gonna go right through the drain hole. This is for the drain for the turbo, and right there, look, right there. Look at the crank. That's the rod bolts. That's the bottom of the crank where the connecting rod goes, right there to the right hand side. We're so close. We just missed it. We knew we were gonna get close, but I didn't know it was gonna be like this. Hold on, let me try to twist it and angle it. so we can look at it. Can we look at it? Guess not. Watch me get this stuck inside here. So yeah, we just missed it. We just cleared it. So if you guys are ever doing one of these, you gotta be careful. So in my previous video, I was talking about how I could not go up here in the front, because look, AC compressor. Right here, there's the motor mount. And back there, there's no space. There's no space. I had to go right here. And if I would have put it here, well, the bolt is here and I wouldn't be able to service the pan, so I figured that this was the best spot. But I did not know going here I was gonna be that close to the crank. I was like, I'm just inches away, just millimeters away.
Please do not get in my way. You cannot drive in my lane. Tires is burning the paint. You don't have nothing to say. This is how legends are made. I know I got what it takes. And I'm not pumping the brakes. And I'm not pumping the brakes. I'm too competitive. I like the narrative. That I don't know best in the league.
Look at that. The subframe is back on. But now it's time to align the motor mounts with the subframe. So we're gonna have to tweak this a little bit. This side's gonna have to go up a little bit. I'm gonna be able to tighten this side and tweak this engine and make it fall right into place. Because look right here, let's take a peek down there. So, come on, focus, focus. All right, can we see? Okay, so I hate this autofocus. So that's the motor mount bolt right there, and it is not lining up. So the whole engine, the whole thing has to kind of shift this way so it could fall into place. Once we have that it falls right into place, then I'll go ahead and secure everything and send everything home. We're almost there. Gotta watch out with that copyright. But yeah, that's what I'm playing. Here we go. It is done. We put the pan back on. We have the tires mounted back on. The brakes are installed again. Once again, it looks like a Miata, not a piece of shit. Let's take a look right here, and this is what this job was done for. We did this whole thing so we could put that line right there for the turbo, for the return line. So now I have to route a line that goes from down there all the way to this turbo, and it feeds from the bottom down. So check this out, guys. This is the drain line for the turbo, and now I could finally cut this to the right length so I could have the drain line going back into the pan. So this part right here goes to the pan, and this will sit to the bottom of the turbo. Now whenever you're doing braided lines like this, these stainless steel braided lines, you always have to put tape right before you cut it, because if you ever done this before, maybe you have, maybe you don't, you haven't. So these braided lines, if you cut it without the tape, this all starts to come apart on you, and it opens up and it becomes a hot mess. So it's very important for you to put tape at the end of these lines right before you cut it, and I have done that right here. So now I'm gonna chop this up, gonna cut it and fit all of this together. So this is what the fitting's gonna look like. This is gonna come off of the turbo. The oil's gonna drain from here. It's gonna go down into the pan. So let's chop this up. Okay, so I have the braided line right here, and I removed the tape. Some people leave the tape on. I like to remove it. So basically, you just remove this fitting off of here, like that. So you have this nipple. This fitting goes in here, like that. That's how it's gonna start to seal it. But before you do that, you have to route this part, all the way into here. Now, at the end of this, at the very end of this, there's a lip. So you have to push this hose all the way to the end of the lip. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that. It does help if you use a little bit of lube. So the best technique is to push and twist at the same time. I'm almost there. Almost at the end. So now the hose is sitting all the way against the lip till the very end. And now you could go ahead and start twisting this on. But before we do that, once again, I'm gonna put a little bit of lube on here so it could go on where it's supposed to go. Okay, so I wanted to clean the surface here where the headers go or where the exhaust manifold goes, simply because there was a little bit of rust. Here we have the old gasket and there's signs of it leaking. It was leaking. It had an exhaust leak. So this gasket wasn't sealing correctly. So I wanted to make sure that I cleaned everything off very well so it could have a proper seal when I install this. But I was using my angle grinder and I had one of these little abrasive discs. These work very well, but they do tend to be a little bit too aggressive. Whenever you're doing an exhaust manifold like this, that you're grinding down, you're sanding down the cylinder head. So you're trying to knock down some of the rust and some of the leftover gasket with one of these discs. It can at times be a little bit too aggressive and you can remove too much material. Then by removing too much material, you're not gonna have a good seal. So they do sell, and I have some of these. They work well as well, but they're not as aggressive. So it does take a little bit more time to sand everything down. I do use this guy and it's faster. I know what I'm doing and I'm taking my time, and I have so much practice at this that I really know when to stop. So if you do use this, be careful. You can warp what you're doing. You could eat too much material on one side and then you have a problem. This is safer, but it doesn't remove all the material as quickly as one of these. So you can do this all by hand and you could scrape it off, but it would take forever and you would never really clean everything off like I have. Just a quick tip that I wanted to share with you guys. You could use your angle grinder to clean all this off, and you should always clean it whenever you can. Sometimes you're not going to be able to because there's too many things in the way. Let's say like if you're working on one of the VQs, or you're working on an engine that there's so many things in the way, you're not going to be able to clean it. You're not going to always be able to clean it, but if you can, do so because it prevents leaks. And you can see this guy was leaking, and I don't know if it's because it could be that they didn't torque this down correctly. Maybe it could be that it was dirty and they just slapped this guy on when they installed the headers. I don't know. But what I'm trying to achieve here is I'm trying to get as close as possible to perfect, which is almost impossible. It's impossible to get everything done perfect, but I'm trying to eliminate any chance whatsoever of a leak for it having an exhaust leak. We want to keep all those exhaust gases to spool up the turbo, and not to mention, you won't get a true reading of how the engine's performing if you have an exhaust leak. So you need all those gases to go through the O2 to get a good reading of what's going on. So always try to clean it whenever you're installing new headers, exhaust manifold, turbo manifold, whatever. Try to clean it. So this is the exhaust manifold, and the turbo sits right in here, and this gets bolted on to this guy, just like that, and the turbo sits up here. So here I have the exhaust manifold, and here I have the turbo, and it sits like this, okay? So exhaust gases come out of here, and they spin this guy. Now, the reason I'm going over all this is because not everyone that's watching the channel understands how a turbo works. If you understand how a turbo works, then I'm sorry you have to sit through this part, but I'm doing this for all the viewers that don't understand how it works. I could explain it to them. So some of you guys already know this stuff, and some of you are just nosy and they want to see what I'm doing. So this is how it works. The exhaust manifold captures all the gases and directs it into this turbine right in here. So once the gases start coming in here, it's gonna spin this turbine. It's gonna spin this up, it's gonna spool it up. Now, that's connected with a shaft into this side. This is the intake side, okay? So all the air is sucked into here like a leaf blower. It's sucked into here and it's pushed out of this side. So this is the compressor side. This is gonna push all that air into the intake manifold. So this is pressurized air, and this is all driven through exhaust fumes, through exhaust pressure. So down here, this line, this is the return line. This is the whole reason I dropped the oil pan. So I could return the oil back into the engine. So the turbo sits like this, the oil drains back into the pan, and then it is pumped right here, right into this hole right here. And that is designed so it could lubricate this whole mechanism in here. It could cool everything off and continue to lubricate it, because of course you don't want to run this dry. Now, every turbo system runs with some type of lubrication. So that lubrication, that oil that's getting pumped through your engine and is getting cycled through your turbo, it gets very hot. And one of the things that people forget to do is, after they finish running their vehicle really hard, they took it down the track, they ran it around the neighborhood, they forget to let the car idle and cool down. So there's a thing called a turbo timer. And if you're not conscientious of what's going on with your engine, it's something that you should have. You should have a turbo timer. Why? What is this device? What is this turbo timer? Well, what this device allows you to do is, when you run the vehicle, it automatically understands if you have been running the vehicle very hard, and it understands the temperatures that your oil is at, or your coolant temperature, and it detects and figures out and says, once this person has parked the vehicle and you shut the vehicle off, you could remove the key, the vehicle continues to run this whole time. So it runs on its own. You can lock your car, you can close the doors, and it'll continue running. That turbo timer, what it allows it to do is cycle all of this oil that's inside here, inside this turbo, cycle it through, run it through, cool everything down, and it allows it to get shut down properly. And what do I mean about that? Well, if the oil inside here is really hot and you don't let it cycle through and you don't cool it down, it starts to break down, okay? When it starts to break down, it starts to get gunky, and eventually this turbo, it's gonna go bye-bye, because it no longer lets you feed the oil through and no longer lets any of the lubrication through. So it is very important to either let your car cool down and let it cycle, or have a turbo timer. That's something I don't hear too many people talk about anymore. Back when I was younger, back in my days, everyone was running a turbo timer. We knew about this, but I guess I have to build awareness in the internet about this. Run a turbo timer, or just let your oil cycle through here so it doesn't break down your turbo. But now I get to install the gasket. Here it is. So this one's for the exhaust manifold and this one's for the turbo. Let's go ahead and do that. Right now what I'm going to be working on is relocating this power steering reservoir. I want to relocate it to back here somewhere. I want to make more room so I can have the intake for the turbo coming into this section right in here. And I'm going to build like a heat shield to make sure we're not scooping in any of the hot air from this engine compartment. And I think I'm going to build a duct that goes into here, or possibly through under here, something. But I know for sure I want to route it right here and put a heat shield. So I'm gonna go ahead and start working on that. Okay, some things look different, and of course it's because half of this intake manifold is ripped off. Half of it is missing and it's sitting right here. So the other half is still on the vehicle. Now we're gonna concentrate on removing the injectors. I have the garage doors open and it's gonna get really stinky in here. Yeah, we gotta swap out all these injectors because for the turbo we need more fuel, and of course we're gonna be pushing a ton of air in there. So let's just cut to that. Okay, so I have the injectors right here. We have to swap all these out. These are the stock ones. They definitely would not supply us with enough fuel for the turbo, so those have to go. And right now Chris is taking the lower part of the intake manifold off. Look at that, we timed it just right. Probably gonna have to get that guy right here. So basically that intake manifold, we could not remove it without doing this, without breaking it in half. And it's designed so you could take the upper part off, but there was these hidden bolts. We couldn't get to those at all. I'll probably make a video in how to remove the intake manifold for a Mazda Miata, because it was a pain. It was a pain trying to figure it out. But yeah, basically the only thing that's holding it is this throttle cable. And yeah, it is still throttled by cable on this one. It's not throttled by wire. So here's the fuel inlet right here. This is what connects to the fuel rail. And the injectors go right there. And it's port injected, not direct injected. So. Oh, oh, oh. Easy, easy there, cowboy. Let's see. Let's take a peek how dirty it is. Oh, she's filthy. So yeah, definitely he's gonna clean all this up at work, and we're probably gonna have this thing looking brand new. So it looks like it does have a EGR delete, and the previous owner, I don't know what he used here, RTV or something. I might have to make a plate and weld this solid. Because this might cause us to have a boost leak. Once we're pressurized, this might be a problem, so might be something I need to address. Let's go take a peek over here. So, plenty of space now to get to that starter. I'm gonna have to figure out how I'm gonna route the oil lines for the oil cooler. So, this guy is gonna sit something like that. It's gonna sit right here where the oil filter comes, and then there's gonna be an extension. The extension connects, you'll be able to connect the oil filter to that extension. Now, this is going to be the tricky part, is routing everything and making everything fit correctly so we can service this car when we need to service it, and so nothing gets damaged. So plenty of ports in the side for us to tap into the oil feed for the turbo. I still don't know exactly how I'm going to do it. I'm gonna put everything in place and then decide what is the best solution for the problem that we have. Overall, the engine doesn't look too dirty. I've seen filthy engines. This doesn't look bad. It's not even covered in oil. Majority of the time, you'll take one of these off and it'll be covered in oil and it'll be a hot mess. Doesn't look like it's a hot mess. So pretty decent, pretty cool. The sandwich plate's installed for the oil cooler, and I have routed all the lines. and it's pretty much ready to go. And Chris has been working on the injectors. He had to completely assemble these. So there's like an adapter plate right here, so the injectors fit in here properly. So he also installed the O-rings inside here in this adapter plate. So now this guy slides right there, and then this sits into the intake. And this is the old used one. So with these, you can't make any power. You can't boost it. Can you boost it with these?
I've seen people boosting it, but when they take it to the dyno and they get it tuned, the tuners are just looking at them like they're crazy, because they're like, why aren't you upgrading injectors? You're only going to make 190 horsepower with stock injectors.
Right. How much boost would that be? 6 pounds?
Yeah, not even. I think four to five.
So that's a joke. We want to make more boost than that. So obviously we're upgrading injectors so we could dump more fuel into there, and we're doing a fuel pump as well. So in the next video, you'll probably see us go ahead and start working on the fuel pump and seeing this whole intake manifold being installed again, and possibly almost wrapping this up, right?
Pretty much, we're getting there.
Yeah, pretty close, pretty close. The toughest thing was dropping the oil pan and getting that whole thing situated. Now that that's out of the way, it should be pretty smooth sailing. Now I'll say that and something will happen. So, and here's the manifold that's ready for him to take it to work and clean it up. And here's the upper side, the upper half. Everything's nice and clean in that one. Did you do the throttle body as well?
I cleaned it with throttle cleaner.
Okay.
Not the parts.
It's clean. It's clean. You got it. So something I almost forgot to mention was this bracket is for the intake manifold, and it gives it a support. I'm going to have to modify this. I'm going to have to cut this. So in the next video, you'll see me do that. You'll see me cut this and modify it, because now that the oil cooler is there, the lines are there, it's not going to work. This is going to be in the way. So I'm going to have to do something about that.